Welcome to Tech Topics brought to you by Cybervenger. We help keep small businesses stay protected and compliant with cutting-edge cybersecurity and IT solutions.
Hello everyone, my name is Andy. I'm the Managing Consultant for Cybervenger. Today we're doing another in our series of deep dives into the 110 controls of the NIST 800-171 standard. Today's control is the 3.3.2. It's a fairly straightforward sounding control. If you look down here, it just says that you got to ensure that all the actions of individuals, system users, can be uniquely traced to those users so they can be held accountable for their actions. In other words, you want to be able to log not just what, but who, right? So if someone tries to log in, they want to know, what users being able to log in. So if someone's using a machine to access a server, you want to see not just that machine connected, you want to see that what user is using that machine. Now, this can be done very easily over wireless if you use, instead of pre-shared keys, use things like certificates that are unique to the user, or if you have credentials, like some kind of radius authentication, something like that. Leap or PEEP come to mind, all those wireless standards. And with this standard, you may be familiar when we talked about some of the wireless standards earlier in the controls that we talked about. It mentions this as well, so it's kind of coming back again. So it's a very important one to be able to tie actions to people. So they bring it up multiple times in multiple standards. So when you do build your logging policies and you do execute that and you record that and all the stuff you're supposed to be doing, it's definitely something that's going to be watched and important. So make sure that that your standards can be held up to scrutiny of an auditor. Because NIST 800-171 is sort of outdated in that it's not just enough to do it anymore. You can't think simply about satisfying the requirement. You have to satisfy an auditor. It has to be held up to scrutiny. A lot of the standard is about having a written policy to address things. Well, that policy can be, quote unquote, anything you want, but it has to make sense. And it's going to be under scrutiny of an auditor now, because without CMMC certification, which is where an auditor comes in and looks at your stuff and says, okay, are you actually following these practices and controls and such? Without that certification process, you're not going to be able to win bids. You're not going to be able to bid on federal contracts past a certain date. And it's just a town hall meeting last night, and they're really kind of ramping up pressure on this. And I think that the timetable moved forward, up a little down the future, but due to the pandemic and other actions and stuff like that. But it's really coming. They're pushing that. So we're going to need everything in this channel. We're going to talk about doing things to hold up to an audit for CMMC rather than just NIST 800-171. So this requirement, if we go into details and we look at it down here, it says, the requirement ensures that the contents of the audit record included information needed to link the audit event to the actions of the individual to the extent feasible. Right? There's some scenarios that kind of isn't feasible. Organizations consider logging for traceability, including results from monitoring of account usage, remote access, wireless connectivity, mobile device connections, communications at system boundaries, configuration settings, physical access, non-local maintenance, use of maintenance tools, temperature and humidity. That's probably the one that's not so feasible. It's kind of hard to associate temperature and humidity with a person, exactly. Equipment delivery and removal, system component inventory, use of mobile code, and use of voice over IP. Really, all of those, I think, could be associated to a user if you try hard enough. Devices certainly can. Anything a device does, a device should always be associated with a user who's using it. You got to sign in to use it. If you're physically taking custody of it, you should sign some kind of asset ownership, some kind of sign in, sign out policy in your company that tracks where this stuff is owned, particularly because devices may inadvertently end up with CUI. This is around CUI boundaries. So you could have an environment where certain users and certain equipment and certain devices and certain parts of your network have to be logged this way, and the rest of the environment is not. It's called an enclave. I think they're talking about that in other controls. But you don't have to have necessarily your entire environment defined to a user. Again, it also says, where feasible, like temperature and humidity, I can imagine this to be tough. But services, let's say you have a service that does a VPN connection. You can run that service as your user account. You can run that service using like a unique certificate unique to that user. You might be able to trace it that way. There's a lot of ways to do that sort of thing, even if it's a service, not just the user. So anything you could do to try and map the what to the who will go towards satisfying this requirement. We've talked about with every control that you need to write down, not just that you're doing this, but you need to have a written policy of some kind that addresses this. When doing policies, it may not be a bad idea to have like an addendum where you call out which NIST controls it reference it or would reference that particular policy, make it easier to find things. Again, you want to think going forward of being audited, how do you make it quick and easy for the auditor to see all your policy and see the compliance? You want to organize it well as well. But then you also have to be able to prove that you're following these policies. So if you have a policy that has a sign-in, sign-out sheet, you better seek regular activities of people signing in, signing out to use it. So good policy, good execution, good records. It's otherwise a pretty straightforward control, but all the usual stuff sort of apply. That's all I got this week. I'm Andy with Cybervenger, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. We hope this video has provided valuable information to you. Be sure to share this video with other small business owners to spread the word about the importance of cybersecurity. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. If you want more information about cybersecurity, visit us at www.cybervenger.com.